Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. It's been a while since I've been here on BookTube. Sometime soon, I'll try to make a personal update as well as a reading update. I still have hopes that I can make a Bookaka series where I'll do an easier version of Vlogmas where people post every day in December until Christmas. Instead, I'm hoping to post a video for each of the 8 nights of Hanukkah. More on that coming soon. For today, I want to make a video inspired by James over at the great channel Quaint and Curious Volumes a couple of weeks ago. In it, he talked about the invasion of Border Patrol and ICE into some cities near his home in North Carolina, including one of the state's largest cities, Charlotte. These federal troops named their invasion Operation Charlotte's Web, which of course refers to the beloved children's book about friendship and community. James follows up by reading a passage from E.B. White called Freedom about some Americans' response to the Nazis before the U.S. got involved in the war. Well, the day before James posted his video, I had dropped into my local library and stumbled across a book I didn't know about before, a whole collection of essays and poems by E.B. White, edited by his granddaughter, Martha White. In the introduction, the historian John Meacham sets the stage. White lived at a time that the United States seemed to be in turmoil. The Great War, the Great Depression, World War II, McCarthy and the Red Scare, the Cold War, and the Civil Rights Movement. Throughout his life, the author published essays about the meaning of America and the historical events that shaped it. And I'll get to the essays in a minute, but let me start by reading out 3 short quotes from his children's fiction. First, from The Trumpet of the Swan. Safety is all well and good. I prefer freedom. Next, from Stuart Little, my son's favorite when he was young. A law has to be fair to everybody. And finally, from Charlotte's Web. An hour of freedom is worth a barrel of slops. White was not an especially political person. He was more an observer of politics. And his ideas about some of the events of the mid-20th century are perhaps different from how we would see them today, and they're inherently more conservative in its nonpartisan meaning than some of us might be. But what comes through most in these essays is his deep love for America, specifically because of the foundation he saw here, freedom and democracy. I'm going to read a passage or two from White himself in a minute, but I want to talk about this collection just a bit. First, it was published in 2019, during Trump's first term. The jacket copy points to the timeliness of the book. It, quote, offers much-needed historical context for our current state of the nation and hope for the future of society. Speaking to Americans at a time of uncertainty, when democracy itself has come under threat, White reminds us that as long as there is one upright man, as long as there is one compassionate woman, the scene is not desolate. I wonder how many people in 2019 could see where we might be just a few years down the road. I want to start by sharing a short bit that White himself published in the 1970s, fairly late in his life. He was writing both in support of the democratic process and in recognition of democracy's limitations. As he says, there is only one decent and responsible way to decide something. Let the people speak, and then count the votes. I hope we never abandon that cherished principle. But we should not, on the other hand, ever assume that the people, given a chance to vote, always come up with the best answer. Americans have a lot of common sense, but they also make mistakes on occasion. The millions and millions who voted Richard Nixon into office were doing their level best at the polls, but they blew it just the same. This morning, I've been mulling over a different piece, one about the place of academic institutions within a democracy. The essay, written back in 1949, is a response to the dismissal of professors from the University of Washington for their allegiance to the Communist Party on the grounds that it, quote, unfitted a teacher for the search for truth. White, writing for the New Yorker, responded, expressing a certain degree of sympathy for the university administration, arguing that, quote, to pursue truth, one should not be too deeply entrenched in any hole. It's best to have a strong curiosity and weak affiliations. But nevertheless, White realizes the danger of infringing upon academic freedom. And in fact, the policy of censuring professors for disagreement, as White says, abets communism by making millions of highly fit Americans a little cautious, a little fearful of having naughty thoughts, a little fearful of believing differently from the next man, a little worried about associating with a group or party or club. He goes on, a healthy university and a healthy democracy is a free society in miniature. The pesky nature of democratic life is that it has no comfortable rigidity. It always hangs by a thread, is always being challenged, always being defended. The seeming unsubstantiality of this thread is a matter of concern and worry to persons who naturally would prefer a more robust support for beloved structures. The thread is particularly worrisome, we think, to men of tidy habits and large affairs, who are accustomed to reinforce themselves at every possible turn, and who want to do as much for their alma mater. But they do not always perceive that the elasticity of democracy is its strength, like the web of a spider, which bends but holds. The desire to give the whole thing greater rigidity and a more conventional set of fastenings is almost overwhelming in these times when strain is great, and it makes professed lovers of liberty propose measures that show little real faith in liberty. Thanks, James, for starting this conversation, and thanks to all of you for joining me today. See you soon.